Hey, what's up, bots? Hey, so back to Final Fantasy 9. I'm gonna do a little touch up, and then we're gonna get to some extra levels of shade, bounce lights, and stuff like that. So, just wanna. What's up, Jaws? What's up, Hector? So I'm just gonna do a little touch up work on some of this stuff. Yeah, I got your email. I just read it today. So my wife got a little sick, so I've been a little busy tending to some family stuff, but I got it. Good to go. Cool story. Thought it was cool. Yeah, yeah, it was cool. Yeah, she's fine, man. It's just the weather kind of has been flipping back and forth, so people at work get sick. So I made the chicken soup from scratch. Made the bone broth. Got the Italian parsley. Got some parsnips, carrot, fennel. You know, put the put the chef skills to work. You know. Didn't take long to make, man. About an hour and a half, give or take some of the mise en place. But All right, so let's go in and work on some of these. Yeah, Jazz, if you want to give out your Instagram link, that's cool. Oh, Josh. Gotcha. Oh, I forgot, Josh. You changed your name. Look at you. So all I'm doing here is trying to use some shadows to kind of push shapes forward a little bit, create a little contrast. I don't want to go too dark because it'll print black. And that, knowing where to stop is really trial and error, you know? You gotta kind of train your eye for it. Yeah, I get it. I just forgot. We can get rid of that. I'm not gonna need it. I'm gonna start bottom up. No. Oh, Hector. It's from a different era. The next one is X-Men, and that rounds out the 2-page crazy things. Then we got Darksiders, which is going to be pretty easy because it's one character each. Well, except War, he's 2 pages, but it's mostly just that sword. And then I got 3 other ones to do with the Dragon Ball, Power Rangers, and Kingdom Hearts 2. But I won't lie, man. It's becoming pretty predictable, like in terms of like the workflow now. You know, like I know how, like I had hoped. I was hoping that, this would all become something I'm like, oh, this is how I do it. I know exactly how long this is going to take, and it's going to look, you know, the way it needs to look. The difference is I am doing this now while I do freelance. So that's why I was hoping to get everything done before January because I wanted to start my freelancing back up. So now I'm sort of multitasking, more than I'd like, which puts Game Cave in a position. But seeing as how this art's all ending up in Game Cave, but the sooner I finish Power Prints, the more I can just devote to that. And Power Prints will continue. It'll just be under Game Cave. Like I'll plan around whatever's going to be in Game Cave every year. Those are be the prints that I'm sort of producing for that. So, oh Hector, it's okay, man. We understand. But like with the Darksiders, I was uncertain how I was going to go about doing that initially because I didn't want to do the Copics with the mix because I didn't want to do that. It doesn't work as well as I'd like it to. Um, but now I know I can just draw it and color it digitally. So I can draw it traditionally and do exactly what you see here, and it's going to look as good as the roughy lighting, if not better. Which I was always a little uncertain about. Always a little uncertain about how I was going to be able to translate that. It's like on the Darksiders piece, there's all those skulls and stuff, and it's cool because I want to make those more concept painty, you know. So trying to merge more with like my roughy stuff, more. But then I can keep the thick, bold lines, with the characters and everything. So. No, they won't dry up. I just use them for commissions. They stay in a nice, evenly temperatured area, so they're not going to dry up. Yeah, I got stuff to sell now. I just haven't put anything up in the store. I'm supposed to be piecemealing it out, but with the Game Informer and the stuff I've been doing with IDW, I mean, I'm working on. I can announce a project. I just can't show off the art right now. But like I'm doing some variant covers for this thing called First Strike, which is gonna be their big summer book. It's like Mask and GI Joes and Transformers. So um, it's just with that, I can't. I couldn't also like ship stuff. You know what I mean? Like something had to give. Can't take an hour or two out of my day. I couldn't at the time. So I'm as soon as this is done. Well, I'm gonna send some stuff out to the printer so I can get stuff up this week, and then I'll have a regular rotation of just stuff. Like here and there. Not a lot. Just there'll be 5 here, 5 there. Because I want to make certain anything through the Etsy store gets taken care of pretty immediately. And then when this is done, I also have to do an inventory check on power prints and see who that's a bigger issue. I have to see who was just waiting on their normal prints plus the fantasy pack. And then I got to ship that stuff out. But I mean, I got Rick and Morty sitting here waiting to go. I got Batman Copics waiting to go. I got some traditional. I got some actual pieces of physical art I want to just put up in there. But I'm not going to have some giant store with like 100 things that are always available. Like that's not going to happen. So it's 5 here, 5 there, 5 here, 5 there. Ah, nice. And sometimes I'll offer some stuff with some sketches. I still have to make up about 10 more for Game Cave. 10 more random sketches. So I'm not certain what I'll attach those to. Enviro pack. With the environments? I think that's more of a sketchbook thing. I can't print any. I can't do any more Kickstarters until I get power prints done, man. So at some point I'll do something, but I don't really see that. Those aren't really meant to be printed on giant prints. Like they don't fit any format in terms of printing. So I looked into it years ago and it just wasn't working out. But over the next year, I will do like one sketchbook a year at least. So there'll be that at the very least. And we'll have to do that on Kickstarter because I'm not covering the cost. But like everything else I do, I'll make it look as best as I can. It's not going to be some janky shit. The new... Yeah, what you see now is kind of how I'm doing it. Um, Depends on also like interior art, you know? Like interior art might be like a lighter version, but in terms of drawing with the lasso tool, yeah, pretty much. Just because it's just way faster, you know? I could see myself doing like a comic where the backgrounds are all painted and they're 100% cel shaded though, you know? GameCube might end up being that. I don't know yet. I have to do an art test on some of the pages and see what that looks like, you know? But in terms of the prints, yeah, I'm moving with this look. It's because it's a lot easier for me. And when I work with publishers, they prefer this over cel shade. So I'm trying to keep my processes fairly streamlined. Later, Hector. Yeah, now I'm airbrushing. So I fill in the initial stage, and now I'm airbrushing soft shaded shadow, and then I'll airbrush the bounce light. And this is a process I've been refining since the GTA piece, and kind of worked out by the Game Informer piece. Like I actually have a recipe. I wrote down all the steps, you know. So I'm using the shadows to pop some of the lighter areas forward. Is basically the soft shadows to pop some of that stuff forward. Okay, you little fucker. Sometimes the lasso tool doesn't want to cooperate. Do you have a video for this style? No, I mean the closest thing would be the Game Informer one right now. But in terms of like, here's the exact layer structure, here's everything works out. Not yet, because I'm still refining it. Like I literally just started figuring out how to do this on Christmas Day. It kind of like popped in my head, like how to do it. I actually completely. I was working on the game, the GTA cover for the gaming magazine called The Game. That's the name of the magazine in Japan. Le Game. And I had already colored it, but it just looked like dog shit to me. And they were happy, but I don't know. I wasn't happy, and so I turned it in, and then I sat down on Christmas Day while dinner was cooking, and then figured it out and got the whole thing recolored in about a day, and then sent it back to them, and they were like, "Oh, this is amazing." I'm like, "Great." So I will. There will be an art tips. I have to really make certain that you know I'm like, hey, this really works again and again and again. So I've used it for the GTA, the Yakuza, the Sonic. I already have three, three of the IDW covers. I'm on cover 4 now, plus the Game Informer. And each way I've been refining the file setup, which is really just my preference for that, the way it's set up. I don't know if it's necessary for everyone to do it that way, but also I do this thing. I haven't done it in a couple years, but it's this thing called Digibooks on Kickstarter. I'll probably do one of those, and that's where I like make the actual files available. Like I charge a certain amount. I make PDFs and walk everything through. So I'll have an explanation here, and I'll definitely have a more in-depth thing later this year because I'm definitely going to be doing another Digibooks. I'm trying not to do too many of those because I did one about 2 years ago, and I'll have another one because I've just learned so much. But I will pass the knowledge on. Don't worry about that. But it's important for me that this works every time because, like I said, when I do freelance, I have to be able to gauge how long it actually takes. It can't be like, I don't know, I guess it'll take this long. I need to know, or I can't take work. So it's been a giant push for me to like really figure out how long does this take. Well, as long as your Cintiq, I mean the monitors, especially plasmas, can be brighter. you know. As long as your Cintiq matches what prints, that's what matters, you know. And if your prints look good, then you got to hold your prints up to the monitor and get it pretty close. You know, I've used every form of calibration software that there is, and I just adjust my settings based on what my prints are going to look like, you know. And then I look at what my files look like on iPad, Android. I got one of everything. I have a shitty LCD monitor on my second computer I've had for like 7 years. So I see this because everyone is going to have something different, and they're going to have a lot of shitty setups too. So I like to see what it looks like on everything. But yeah, this definitely is working. You know, like I feel at this point, like you know, especially by the game form. I said on the game former cover. By the time I got to Chrono, I wasn't like uh, I kind of figured out like how it should flow. So that was cool. Why I like the Copics because they're refillable, man. You know, and those refillable things last a long time. Oh, the multi-liners. Sorry, I was thinking Copics. Multi-liners. Well, the Copic ones are Copic proof. Can't vouch for the Prismacolors. So they're watercolor and Copic proof. So I just stick with the Copic brand. And I buy a lot, man. Like always got at least 10 on hand. So if I order some and it takes a while, I know I can get through. I use one per 11 by 17, usually how they work. So if I'm doing a bunch of 8.5 by 11 commissions, it means I can do two before one will run out. back to here. And then let's save this. What time is it? It took an hour. I could spend one more on this, so let me see if I can start here with some bounce light. Yeah, I saw it. It was fun. It's nice to see Marvel movies now and not have to have spent the last year making merchandise for them. By the time the movies come out, you tend to be just sick of looking at it. You're like, whatever. Yeah, it's fun. Had a good time. Got my money's worth. That's all I ask, you know, that they don't waste my motherfucking time. No, I don't have experienced that bug before. Are you saving your Wacom preferences? Because you could just reload them. Although that tends to crash Photoshop. So it probably doesn't help. Later, Joss. That's weird. What version of Photoshop? CS6 does have some weird stuff. I haven't encountered that one. I went back to CS5 just because it was more stable, but sounds more like a USB issue. Or, no, it sounds more like a Wacom driver conflict. That's what it sounds like to me. If I had to place a bet. You know, like. You leave your canvas in one spot. Photoshop started using keyboard shortcuts. Maybe it's the USB driver. You know? Like, have you tried putting your keyboard in a different port? Because it could be doing that power down thing where it's powering off the USB port if you're not using the keyboard. I don't know. It's always something, isn't it? I mean, Photoshop gets glitchy when things start turning off and on when you're in Photoshop. Like if you try to reset your Wacom preferences, it will, I can't even use, I have to reboot Photoshop. So if it's losing power to a USB port, it could just be a symptom of that. You know what I mean? Like it could be like, oh, it's freaking out. Well, before you do that, I would just try putting your keyboard into a different port. You know, maybe a direct port, just to see if that's the problem. I mean, some of the bugs I experienced in CS6 was like a lot of text issues, like fonts wouldn't render right. Like if you typed in exclamation points, they put them at the front of sentences, and they're like, "Oh, it's because it's switching this Arabic mode. You just change this," and I could never get it to work right. So I just gave up and went back. Not that CS5 doesn't have bugs. It's just I have far less. The only one that seems to be affecting me right now is that one where it crashes based on trying to right-click a file from the open window, and that's random. There's no rhyme or reason to that one. Not a fan of paying monthly bills for things I already own, man. Better yet, I'm not a fan of paying a monthly bill for anything that I can just outright buy. You know, so I don't have a ton of money, but I make money with Photoshop, so if I had to, I would just buy a version of it. But no, I mean, there was a lot of issues with Cintiq issues and CC, and I'm like, I don't really need new tools. You know, new tools are nifty, but what I have a problem with is I got to produce, work. So I don't really care about having the most updated software. New software updates just bring more problems. I mean, I get Adobe has investors. But the last meaningful thing they ever added to Photoshop that changed how my workflow was the warp tool. So as long as I have that, I'm pretty good to go. Yep. Because we don't need it. I mean, I gotta be honest, man. We don't need it to do. A lot of the stuff they've added is for 3D production and film production, but I'm lasso tooling and airbrushing, dog. Like, I don't need, the latest thing. I've been fighting that fight since college days. People at my school are like, "What's your computer?" And I'm like, "It was a, you know, 686 something or other." And they're like, "Oh my God, you got the shittiest computer." I'm like, "My art looks just fine though, dog." The computer so far can't produce the art for me, so you know, I'm not too worried about it. And the more technique you develop, the less you need. Like, I don't need a ton of brushes. I have a few. It's good to have. I got, especially when I'm doing like roughies, if you want to add some foliage on top. There's a few brushes for that, but I use less and less every year. Like, so I just stick with CS5. Yeah. A lot of younger artists talk about programs like it's the Matrix, like it's doing the work for them or something. Like, if I bought into this, that means I have attained the knowledge. It's like, right. I know kung fu. What time is it? Oh, it's about the 2 hour mark. Which is all I have to spend on this today. So, we're getting there, right? We're getting there. Let's go ahead and take a snapshot. Matter of fact, before I even do that, let's go ahead and save this. Because, you know. And then we'll come back here. Oh, we're making progress. Yeah, Vivi still needs more work. And then this is where it gets a little, and the bounce lights and the glows and the final stuff, this is where it slows down a little bit. There's no way around that. It's just rendering the characters out takes a little time. So we'll finish him tomorrow, and we should be able to get her complete. And maybe some Steiner. If not, then so forth and so forth. And then we'll be done soon enough. The very last thing I'll do is mess with the background, because I'm going to only add as much detail as it needs once everything else is done. You know, it can be a little concepty. It's just fine. But I mean, come on, if this was a, look at this. If this was a comic book coming out, a Final Fantasy IX comic coming out, an Image or Udon, I mean, you'd buy that, right? I know I would. I can't believe I just colored that. Put it that way, folks. It's not like I got this shit all figured out. Like, I'm just like, huh. Oh, it only took me 20 years to figure out how to fucking do all this shit by myself, you know? So, I am here sharing it with you so it don't take you 20 years to figure it out. Please don't do that. Spend 20 years getting good at it. You know, it may take you 5 years to kind of make it all make sense, but I can eliminate half or 75% of that process, then I have done my job. So, all right, folks. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Also, this will be up in the playlist soon enough. I got Brandon right now organizing the playlist, so when you play them, it will play everything in order. So, like, if it's drawing Final Fantasy IX, it'll be drawing Final Fantasy IX in order. So right now they're all kind of jumble fucked. So it's a little oversight on my end. But when you got like 1,000 videos, you know, you don't really think about that shit. Arian's like, already 10 years. Hopefully I can eliminate some of that trouble for you. One way or the other. You know what I mean? So, like I said, it's got some work. I got to come in here and mess with some stuff tomorrow. And I got to turn my head into rendering mode, which, you know, it's always a different mental state, you know. But we made good progress today. So. We'll wrap this up soon enough, and then get prints in the store, and then move on with life. All right, everybody, I'll be back on soon enough with more stuff very soon. Peace, everybody.